We're the only advanced democracy in the world that does not have universal health care. I think I mentioned earlier, 1 in 4 Americans living with medical debt, people rationing their insulin in this country, 18 million people who can't even afford to fulfill the prescriptions their doctors give them. You know, it's not just a matter of uninsured, it's underinsured as well. So there are millions of people who can afford to go to the doctor, but they can't afford to buy the medicine, or they can't afford for the treatment. Their insurance won't cover it. So universal health care. And once again, as I mentioned earlier, there's a matrix of corporate power. Insurance companies, pharmaceutical companies, big food companies, big agriculture, big ag, big chemical companies, gun manufacturers, big oil, and defense contractors. They are a matrix of tyranny. They have financialized everything in this country. They have put these tentacles of unfettered vulture capitalism into every corner of our world. It's unbelievable. And it's keeping people from being able to self-actualize. It's beating people down. It's why people can't, why people are laden with these college loans. We had accessible near tuition-free and tuition-free college in the United States until the 1970s. University of Florida had a system, Texas, California. In the 1970s, the average American worker could afford a home, could afford a house, could afford a car, could afford one parent to stay home, and could afford to send their kids to college. That was the 1970s. So the basic tyranny today is the economic tyranny, which is policy after policy after policy, based on making it easier for those who already have capital to get more and increasingly harder for everybody else to then get by. And we can look at privilege all we want, but we have to look at those governmental levers that are really at the source of all this. You can realize it, but then you have to vote it, because otherwise the system doesn't have any problem with your looking into your heart for where it lies. After you look into your heart, do something about it. That's really where we are now. So universal health care, tuition-free college and tech school, which they have in every other advanced democracy. We should get rid of those college loans because they should never have even existed. This was just an example of the banks and the financial institutions. Ooh, there's another aspect of human despair and human yearning and human wanting to self-actualize and get educated. Ooh, we could turn that into a profit center. The food and the carcinogens in our food, the toxins in our water, all of that. That's big chem, that's big ag, destroying the farmer, destroying a sector, the reverence for the earth and food. We don't have common sense gun safety laws because of the gun manufacturers, a green energy, the catastrophe of climate right now. And the big oil companies knew this decades ago. And of course, if you look at something like the Iraq War, the last 20 years in Afghanistan, and how much that had to do with the undue influence of Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, Boeing, defense contractors, the military-industrial complex. As president, I wouldn't have a magic wand. It's not like I could just say, oh, you have universal health care as of tomorrow. No, the president does not have a magic wand, nor do you want the president to have a magic wand. But the president sets that moral agenda, as Franklin Roosevelt said. The president not only can set the legislative agenda, then it's going to matter. It's going to matter what kind of House and Senate you have. If you have people in the House and the Senate who only want to obstruct that, there will be a limit to what I can do. Every president hopes to have people in the House and the Senate who are going to align with his or her views. And that would be true for me. But no matter what, I would still have the power of executive orders. Manchin and Sinema didn't make Joe Biden approve the Willow Project or give more oil drilling permits even than Trump did. All of which completely nullify the otherwise healthy benefits in green energy that are part of the Inflation Reduction Act. So this business of his hands are tied. No, sometimes your hands aren't tied. There's a lot the presidents can do. The president also has the power not only of executive orders. The president is who appoints the heads of these agencies. I'll give you an example. The head of our Defense Department is a former board member at Raytheon. I mean, when I was growing up, people would have gone, excuse me, that's not supposed to happen. This stuff has become so normalized.
Broad daylight.
Broad daylight now. They don't even broad daylight. And on stuff like that, when it comes to big oil and when it comes to defense contractors, I don't care if you're talking about the Democrat or the Republican, but people must step in now. It's like with an alcoholic or a drug addict, we must intervene. So in addition to those issues, I have an economic bill of rights. People can see all this on Marianne 2024. We should have guaranteed housing. We should have guaranteed living wage. We haven't raised the minimum wage. The minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. In a city like Los Angeles, I'm sure a living wage is probably $24, $25 an hour. You have a third of America's workers living on less than $15 an hour. Half of them cannot even find a place to live. There are people who are working who are living in their cars in this country and going into the McDonald's in order to get Wi-Fi. And one of the reasons they want Wi-Fi is to homeschool their children. And one of the reasons they're homeschooling their children is because since they cannot afford a home and they're living in their car, they're afraid that if they send the kids to school, somebody in the school is going to realize they're living in their car, report it to Child Protective Services, and then take away their children. Millions of people are living with this. So we need, obviously, raising the minimum wage. And some people would say, well, Biden tried to get us that. Yeah, Biden did say raising the minimum wage was very important to him. He was able to unilaterally raise it for federal workers. Then he wanted to put it in the COVID relief bill. And the parliamentarian stopped him. The parliamentarian has no real political power. I assure you, the Republicans do not allow the parliamentarian to stop them. When they want to give a tax cut to the very wealthy or whatever, you know what George Bush did when the parliamentarian tried to stop him? He fired the parliamentarian. Another thing I would do, as I mentioned before, is declare a climate emergency. We need to mass mobilize for a just transition from a dirty economy to a clean economy and from a war economy to a peace economy. So I would be busy for 4 years, and then you hand it over to a younger generation. We wouldn't have turned the ship around totally, but we would have made it around the curve.
Do you feel like you can win?
Yeah, of course I can. The media would have you think otherwise. Not only can I win the nomination if people wake up and think, what are we doing? Who do agree with my political vision, but I actually think I'm the strongest person to beat Trump. I think Biden is not a strong candidate to beat Trump. Trump, I'm reminded of a line from FDR, where FDR says, we will not have to worry about a fascist takeover as long as democracy delivers on its promises. When you don't have universal health care, when you don't have tuition-free college and tech school, when you don't have child care, when you don't have paid family leave, when you don't have a living wage, democracy is not delivering on its promises. So it's not just that I could beat I can beat Biden if the DNC, if the people rise up and say the DNC should not be determining what happens here. That's not democracy to say we can't have debates. What about democracy? People have to decide, are we going to stand up for democracy now or not? Because if you think it's as simple as, well, I'll just wait to see who the Democrats nominate. No. Mm-mm. We have to now at this point. But more than that, it's not only winning the nomination, it's defeating Trump. We will only defeat Trump or any other Republican if we offer to the American people the agenda that allows more people to live a more self-actualized life. That's what will win, and that's what I would offer, and that's what I would give my heart to for the next 4 years.